Man, what happened to black comedy? Like, there's no. Where's the torch going? You know, when you think of black comedy, there's always been um, a big black comedian for during a certain time period, right? Like you could start with Richard Pryor. Now there was, of course, comedians before him that I can't think of off the top of my head. Like he's the first one I can think of from like the '60s, '70s. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like he was like the breakthrough one. So you get Richard Pryor. He 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 was he can represent that time period. You know, he speaks to things that people had going on. You know, people really resonated with Richard Pryor and the things that he went through, and he talked about things that was really going on. He didn't hold back. That's why people loved him. And then you go on into the '80s, and then Eddie Murphy comes in, and now he's coming out here and he's talking to the new generation. You know what I'm saying? He's making jokes and he's cursing. He doesn't give a shit. It's revolutionary still. Like people like, oh, like wow, like Eddie Murphy out here. Wearing his orange uh, leather suit or whatever. You know, and ripping on everybody, going in on things that's going on, just being funny. He's coming in the '80s. He's doing his thing, and he speaks to that time period. He's in action movies, and you know, I don't know if he's the first one, but he's doing action movies. He was a symbol. He's kind of like almost like a sex symbol too. A lot of women was liking him. He was popular. He was in SNL, Saturday Night Live. He was doing it all. So he's taking that torch from Richard Pryor and he's holding it. He's holding it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you wanted to hate on him, it'd be like, like, like you can hate, but like, you know, I think people knew like, yo, Richard or Eddie Murphy was doing his thing. So, then, as the '80s goes on, the '90s comes and you got a bunch of different comedians. Now it's saturated. Like, there's so many you can, you know, so many different types of comedians that are coming into the game, and then you have Def Def Jam comedy, bringing in more comedians to the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? You got uh, what's this guy's name? You got Earthquake. You got well, I mean he was around before that, but whatever. You got Earthquake. You got Pierre. You got young Corey Holcomb. You got uh, what's this girl's name? Big Les or Les? I don't know. Some more, you got some more as well. You got you got a lot. You got young Chris Rock. You got shit. Who else? You got so many. Because it's a bunch of comedians that people don't that people have forgotten. There's so many different comedians that came that did their thing during that time period. Held it down. I think in general we could say during the '90s, Chris Rock was that guy. It seems like nah, now he's like the guy. He's a meme. He got slapped in the face. He became a moment. Got slapped by Will Smith, but no, during the '90s he was holding it down. Like he was that dude. You know what I'm saying? Like he was in every movie. Like Eddie Murphy, he was what Eddie Murphy was in the '80s. He was in the big movies. He had to stand up. He was killing it. He was doing stand ups, doing movies. He was in Space Jam. He was all over the place during that time. So that was like, boom. He was. doing it big, and so you got that. So he's there for the '90s. Then the 2000s came. I say, yeah, people were still being held down. You still had a bunch of different people holding down the comedian, holding down black comedy, still, doing black comedy, and also, keeping. Well, hold on, let me go back. I said Chris Rock. Well, not just Chris Rock. I said Martin Lawrence and Chris Rock. And Martin Lawrence was more black, like like yeah, like if you was like if he was a if he was a snapback wearing, starter kit wearing motherfucker, that was your guy right there. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let me just move forward. So now, now we're in the 21st century. Now you got a bunch of different. You got well, Dave Chappelle was there too, but now he was young. So now now Dave Chappelle, he's really coming in to his prime. You know what I'm saying? Eddie Murphy or Eddie Griffin doing his thing or whatever. You got Patrice O'Neal. All these, and also with the 2000s, now it's more exposure. So people who might not have gotten the right attention in the '90s, now they get internet, they get connected to an internet crowd. So you got that going on. So you know, you have you have black comedians still talking about the things that black people go through, and making just making light of things, and you know using the comedian to point out the hypocrisy in society, racial inequalities and things like that. I'm like, oh, look at this, the white guy got this, but the black guy didn't get that. It's black comedy. But then, as I see as we go through the 2000s, um, Kevin Hart seems to be the up and coming one. It seems like, that kind of went away. Like any type of like serious conversations just went away, and we're just like just talking about, I don't know, just random shit. Like I'm trying to think, like what is being really talked about. Like Kevin Hart has been like from like the late 2000s. He's been the main comedian that's been, you know, pushed to the mainstream, and you know, we've gotten like we haven't really gotten like a bunch of big moments. Like he's like a safe comedian. He tells the jokes that you know you don't really want to get in trouble. If you're a big corporate or whatever, you like Kevin because he says things that just are good enough to get a laugh. I guess from a mainstream, he's good for like a mainstream safe crowd. You don't want anybody walking out of there feeling hurt or whatever. Like if another type of comedian was to be telling some jokes up there, you don't know what they're gonna say. He's a good safe comedian, um, but he it's not what it's about. Comedians are supposed to push the line. They're supposed to get you thinking. They're supposed to make you like, damn, like the way you put it is crazy. You know, it's supposed to make you like, dang, get out your seat. And I feel like Kevin Hart goes together with like uh, gentrification or something. Now you can't really talk about the real issues that's going on because you have another group of people that's coming in. They got a bunch of money and they talking about what they want to talk about. They're just ignoring whatever you got going on. You thought Harlem was like, oh, the Apollo Theater, and going to this these certain train, just going to certain stores and all that. Nah, now we're gonna put our stores in, and they're just gonna completely, you know, you know, fuck y'all shit up that y'all had going on. push up to the back, and that's what I feel like is gonna happen with comedy. Now you don't have no real black comics that's talking that real stuff on stage like that. Or like especially the up and coming ones. There's no up and coming ones that's making waves. Like we don't have no comedians like that. And if they are, they're not really like doing what black comics used to do. Like they're not really talking about no real stuff that you want to. Like you can be like, yeah, he about to go in. Like nah, like they're just like they're like you know safe comedians, or they say stuff that other communities care about. None of them are like really black. They don't make you like, dang, yeah, brother, man. But that speaks to what black people have become like. Black people ain't really black. Niggas will chat, and complain about this and that. But when you listen to new age black people talk, you can tell black people ain't really black like the '90s and back in the day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, niggas get uncomfortable hearing black people talk about certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, black people ain't black people like black people used to be. It's like we got more Oreos. We got a bunch of Candace Owens ass niggas out here, man. So they want to hear some, fucking, some shit that makes white people laugh. Typically, they want to hear a bunch of dark humor, and whatever the fuck. I mean, it's cool once in a while, but you want to hear somebody who's like along the lines of Mark. I want to hear some Mark Lawrence type shit. I want to hear some what other Sadiq. What's this guy's name? Sadiq. I think he should have been in like some a similar spot to Kevin Hart, but clearly it was politics. Uh, I feel like it's just like we 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 lost the plot, man. I hate to say we lost the plot because I hate hearing TikTokers say that, but like what I'm saying, like black comedy ain't what it used to be. Like it's, I guess like honest to be honest, some people don't like Key and Peele. I'm cool with them. You know, even though they could be I wouldn't consider them for black people. I feel like they're more mainstream for like everybody, but I still mess with their stuff. But yeah, I just don't like black comedy's falling off. But I feel like I said, it's just a representation of black people. Now it's just like niggas ain't moving the same. It's not the same type of funny no more. People ain't not people on the front, and everybody's sensitive. No one wants to get the joke. Everybody wants to go somewhere and fight and do bullshit, and people want to be all you know on bullshit, delusional. Uh, and so I don't know what happened to black comedy, man. But it's not the same. It's not the same. Where's the vibes that created the what people went to the Apollo Theater for back in the day? Where's that at? Somebody tell me where those vibes is at, and will they come back again? Where's the next Martin Lawrence? Where's the next Eddie Griffin? Where's the next Dave Chappelle? Where is the next uh, uh, Earthquake? Where's the next shit? Where's the next Mike Epps? Where's the next, where's the next Eddie Murphy? Where's the next version of these guys? We ain't get. There's no one carrying the torch, man. You're supposed to be speaking to this next generation. We can't all be wearing blue shiesties and walking around with dirty Air Forces. Somebody gotta get up here and tell the jokes, bro. Somebody gotta get up here and speak to what's going on out here and be fearless. I mean, I guess we got people who do skits, but that's not the same. And you could tell because some of these guys who do skits, they try to do actual stand up, and they end up bombing because that's not the same as, you know, stand up doing stand up. You know, um, so yeah, like talking about actual comedians. But I do appreciate the people who do skits, but I'm still like, that's not the same. We need somebody who can do actual comedy that can relate to the youth, but also be like, truly black. That's not, what I'm saying, like a weirdo or, what I'm saying, LGBT. They're not out here on some little Nas X type shit. They're not on some, what I'm saying, they're not on that. They're not on that. They're not on that. You don't want to, you don't want a purple haired motherfucker coming out with his nails done. Like, no, we need a real stand up, stomp down, real motherfucker to come up in here and show what's going on. I don't know if that can happen though, with the type of society we in now. So I don't know. But yeah, that's enough, man. What do y'all think about black comedy? And what happened to black comedy? Let me know what y'all think.